All right, so let's take a look at the economic week ahead. Economist Joseph Busha, always very, very kind and gracious with his time, joining us to take a look at what's coming up for the week ahead. So China's gross domestic product. Joseph, good morning to you. What's expectations there? We watch China very closely, don't we?
Well, we need a good break, not a prison break, but I think we need a break in terms of positive news. So we had our investor conference last week, which is obviously now becoming quite a good theme in the first quarter of each year. 1.5 trillion rands in pledges, 26% above the target that was set by the president. So that's positive news, apart from obviously what has been happening locally. On the front side, China expects its GDP to be coming at about 4%. Last quarter 4 of 22 was 2.9, and for the entire year 2023, they're looking at about 5.4. That is really positive, and the inflation is sitting at about 2.3. So there you have a positive, real economic growth, which I think all of us we are seeking to have.
As well, it's not just China that we're watching very closely, but at the back of last week, there was an effect on the JSE. JSE cooling midweek. It wasn't the worst ending for the JSE because of what was happening with interest rates over in the US as well. All the fears of the spike in interest rates didn't quite come to fruition, and we had a fairly good reaction in SA because of the US, wasn't it?
100%. I think the JSE was inching closer back to the 80,000 index level. We're sitting at about 78. So we were positive on Friday, but unfortunately, the US closed weaker on Friday. This morning, the Dow Jones' futures are slightly positive, just hanging in there. So we might possibly just have a mixed bag this Monday in the opening of the week. But I think if all goes well, the rand is holding very well, 18.07 to the dollar. The metals are also looking very good. Platinum, palladium, all sitting pretty well, 1,050 on the platinum. And gold easing off a little bit, but still also above the $2,000 per ounce mark. So I think the commodities are looking good. So if China is going to do well, if the GDP numbers come very well, certainly we'll see positivity because China is the biggest consumer of some of the world commodities. All Brent crude oil sitting at about $37 per barrel. China being the second biggest consumer of that as well. So I think everything possibly this week we hinge on China. The earnings seasons opening as well this week with lots of the major U.S. banks reporting their earnings.
So rand performance, now we need to be quite clear about this, don't we, Joseph? Because it's the rand performance we're looking at for the week ahead. Obviously, we're watching very closely what happens over in the US. So rand stronger this week or weaker this week? Because I think there's always this confusion, isn't there, between a weaker rand, stronger dollar, and the other way around. So what's our rand looking like this week?
I think it might be holding on this week. I think, the expectation in terms of a range between 18 and possibly 18, 20, 18, 15. That's where I said. Also depends really on the numbers from the US, but certainly I think they're all pointing to be very good positive numbers that will come from an earnings perspective. We are aware that there's a 78% chance that the US will hike rates again, which is really a hawkish position by 25 basis points. And that again will certainly support the rand.
Let me ask you this in closing, Joseph. Let's look at oil. Brent crude over the past couple of weeks. I see Brent crude futures at the end of last week down about 10 cents. It's about 0.12% for what it was closing out at 85.99 on Thursday. In South Africa, could we see a jump in the oil price because of what OPEC is doing, cutting the supply, pushing up the demand, which pushes up the price, of course? Do you think we're going to get hit by a fuel price increase?
It might come, in the course of the year, given the fact that, we're not quite sure where the Brent crude oil price is coming through. You saw that the OPEC countries saying they're going to reduce, I think, by about 1 million barrels per day in terms of 1.1. That's what was reported last time in terms of their production. That really just supports obviously the prices, but this does affect our own retail prices at the pump. And we had a mixed bag last time, where there was a reprieve on diesel and up on petrol. The rand will play a critical role. If the rand holds below 18, we might not see a fuel increase quite soon.
All right, so let's vote for the rand at the moment. Let's hope the rand keeps holding steady, and we're not going to see a jump in the oil prices as well, as Joseph says, just north of 86 for the Brent crude price at the moment. Joseph Busha, thank you very much indeed. Economist joining us this